Hello, my name is Dr. Ruth Newstifter, but you can call me Dr. Ruthie. I am a professional sexuality educator. I'm also a published author of books like The Nice Girl's Guide to Talking Dirty, which you can find in bookstores and online and everywhere. I blog over at exploringintimacy.com, but today I'm here thanks to the great folks at funwares.com to answer your questions on sex and relationships. Got a question for me? You can send it to Ask Dr. Ruthie, that's Ruthie with an IE, at funwares.com, or you can tweet me or find me on Facebook at the information at the beginning and end of this video. All right, let's go for our next question. Another nice direct one. This one came through on Twitter. I'm going to my first sex party. What should I expect? Wow, that is a really big question. This question seemed to come from a female asker, so I'm going to kind of talk about it from that perspective. Many things will be the same for male folks, but some things will be different. Oftentimes, for ladies, sex parties are heterosexual and bisexual events, meaning that at the majority of sex parties, not all by any means, but at the majority, what you'll have are women who typically play with both men and women, and men who typically just play with women. I'm not saying that I agree with that structure at all. I'm just saying that that's how it typically goes. If you are looking for one where everybody is bi or pansexual, then you'll have to do a little extra hunting. Or where nobody is bi or pansexual, you'll have to hunt even harder. There are also sex parties, of course, for people to purely engage in same-sex fun, or same-sex and trans, or whatever the case may be, kind of fun. And, check around online. You will find these things in pretty much every major or intermediate-sized city and a lot of small towns and rural areas as well. Sex parties are surprisingly common. Oftentimes they're not planned as sex parties. They're called something like fraternity parties, but they end up having a lot of that going on too sometimes. Not all fraternity parties by any means, but I've worked on a campus before. I know what's what. Anyway, so sex parties, what do we expect? Oftentimes, it's by invitation only, or you at the very least need to RSVP, so somebody had to tell you about it. And for some parties, they'll want a picture of you ahead of time if you've never been. For others, they'll want to know that you know somebody in the group already. So those are all things that are probably inherent in how you found out about the party. If you don't know about any of this, you don't know if there's a cover charge or any of that stuff, it's perfectly fine to contact the host of the party and to ask questions about that. In fact, it's highly encouraged because you want to be a good, polite sex party guest. So contacting the host or the host venue is a good idea. Hopefully the host venue knows what's going on with the host, so you hopefully can contact either one. No matter what, at a sex party, people are not paying to have sex. They're paying some sort of cover or door fee to meet each other, mingle, and be in a sex-happy environment. Some sex parties, people don't even have sex at the venue. You meet up and go home. It's just a place to meet up and make out, and then if you want to do more, you leave. For other sex parties, there is actual space to have sex in front of other people or in private or semi-private rooms. I know, right? A whole crazy world, so many what-ifs. It's hard to give you a specific answer without knowing more information. There are certain rules that we should all abide by if we're going to be at a sex party and that you should expect to have honored. And if people are not honoring these rules, alert the host and get the heck out of there if it's not immediately resolved to your satisfaction. But really these things, should not be happening to begin with. If they are, they should be resolved very quickly and very firmly. You should never be touched without your permission. At some types of events, that means that people are required to come up to you and verbally ask for your permission to touch your person, to flirt with you, to join in on sex that's already happening, as the case may be. For some venues, there's kind of this weird body language thing that happens. I'm not as big a fan of it as I am of the direct asking because people can get confused. But for folks who have been there for a while and know the deal, everybody understands the body language. And basically, it's something like somebody kind of sidles up to you a little bit and gets close. And they might put a hand on your shoulder and then progress, and talk with you a little bit, and then a hand on your arm and a hand on your lap. And if at no point do you pull away and say no thank you, then it's assumed that you're okay with this until you say stop. So if you've encountered this sort of situation, which is more likely to happen at swingers events than at like kinky S&M events, then recognize that it should be perfectly fine for you to say, I'm not interested, no thank you, or to just step away so they're no longer touching you, and that should end the situation. What if you do want to be having sex? I say go for the verbal way, but it's always fine to ask your host what's appropriate for the culture of that particular party. So you can walk up to people and say, hey, I really like what you're not wearing tonight. and you want to chat for a little bit, or whatever your cheesy line may be. It's never okay to just jump in on sex that's already happening. It may look to you like everybody else is just joining in, but you need to find out for sure if it's okay for you. These people may already know each other and have organized this. The quickest way to get kicked out of a sex party is to get grabby. It's not a buffet. You can't just grab what you want. So be polite, take no pictures, and mention no names. The typical person who attends a sex party is a well-educated, professionally employed, respectable, everyday kind of person who just really likes to spice up their life or spice up their relationships this way. They don't need any drama, and you don't need any drama. What if you run into somebody there that you already know? Hey, what are they doing there? You both should be keeping it quiet. So while you may go home and tell your friends or your internet or whatever about the fun time you had, never identify anybody else who's there and never take any pictures, even if it's just of you. Places that allow pictures will make that policy known and how it's allowed. Unless you hear otherwise, just assume. There should also be a list of rules somewhere that's covering what I'm saying as well as other things. Whether there's lockers to put your stuff, if you have to be street legal with clothing. Most of the time you arrive street legal and change when you get there, but, this can vary by venue. And other sorts of things, like if there's a safe word, like a little code word that means stop for where you are, and rules about protection and cleanup. Always clean up your space before and after you use it, just in case the person before you didn't. What do I mean by space? Couches, beds, sex furniture, whatever is set up at the party. And always make sure that you're using protection in accordance with the rules, in accordance with what you and your partner want. Always go with the most protection-oriented person. Some play parties require gloves, dental dams, and condoms for everything. Other play parties leave that up to you. Some will go ahead and provide protection at a sex party, but it's always a good idea to just bring your own and your own favorite lube until you find out what they have there. If you bring in sex toys, I thoroughly suggest you go ahead, wash them very well, boil them however you clean them, and put each one in a Ziploc bag. That way, after it's used, you can put it back in the baggie, bring it home with you readily, and clean it there. All right, I'm not going to get into the details of real fetish-oriented sex parties because I don't know if that's really more information than what you're looking for or not, and it could always be a follow-up question if anyone wants to know. But this should give you a little bit of information about what a sex party is like and what to expect. Remember, always talk to the host to find out the details ahead of time to ascertain how you're invited and what you need to do, if there's a cover charge, anything like that, where to park, whatever, what to come dressed in, and then request a list of the rules. They'll cover many of the things I talked about here, but there's always going to be house rules and specific situations for specific parties. And always have fun with whatever it is that you're interested in. So make sure that your limits or boundaries are never pushed, that you feel confident and comfortable letting people know what you need, that you already know what it is you want so that you can communicate that to others. And, enjoy yourself. Make sure nobody ruins your fun. And I'll, of course, be respectful to the other people around you as well so that everyone else is having fun too. I'm Dr. Ruthie. Thanks for your lovely question, and I hope you have a fantastic sex party. And I will see you at the next video. Thanks.